The meeting is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jeremy.
Recently, I realized that it has been 5 years since I first arrived in Plainfield. This milestone has me thinking about everything that learning Christian Science and being a member of this church has brought into my life. There have been an amazing amount of healings, blessings, and opportunities since arriving. So much so that I just don't feel all that much similarity to that person I used to be. Everything used to be intensely difficult without this wonderful way of life to rely upon. And I wouldn't say life is easy here in Plainfield, but there is a big difference between the hopeless existence of before and how I have now gained the faith in God and understanding of science, where joyful progress is being made daily. I'm so grateful to God and to Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, the early workers, this church, my practitioner, and every member past and present whose combined work has gone into making Plainfield the shining light that it is. It means so much to me, and I just know that the needs of all mankind will bring them here as well, and each will be blessed. Thank you. And also now I have a testimony from Diana in Berlin and Vienna.
So this is Diana from Berlin and Vienna. I wanted to express my gratitude tonight for all of the instruction that I'm getting from Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent in the way of how to handle animal magnetism. I'm especially grateful for the roundtable discussion of May 27th, which went into a lot of detail about this. I know that the 20 years of dealing with the lawsuits from the Mother Church must have seemed very difficult. But I want to say that there is a silver lining in it, and that is that those of you who went through it are so clear about how to handle this, how to handle animal magnetism, and you are able to teach this so well. And I am just so grateful to get this instruction and this correction and this understanding, because I am in a situation where I really need it. And I'm sure that in the world right now, I am certainly not the only one. So all that you are teaching those of us who are in need, I just want to thank you for that. I'm reading Exodus right now and reading about the story of Moses, of course. And the thing that just keeps impressing me is that, Pharaoh's magicians and all of these people with all the seeming power certainly were able to do a lot of what appeared to be very powerful things, but God always had more power. And I'm just holding on to the commandment that God is all, that God is omnipotent, that it is love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. And that is the most important commandment. And it's just getting more and more and more clear to me. And I'm very grateful for that, so that all of that fear and all of that concern can just get washed away, knowing that God has way more authority than any of this. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank you for all of the Bible studies, the roundtables, the services, the emails for the Unity Watch, all of these things that make me feel so connected to this church, even though I'm in Europe. And I can still feel very close, and I'm listening to everything. So I just want to thank you for all of this outreach work. Have a good night.
Thank you. Michael from California, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for the readings. I just wanted to express my gratitude for the progress that I've been able to make while being a member of this Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. One milestone for me personally was I was having some difficulties with some people, and one at work and one outside of work in my personal life. But long story short is that it really seemed very hopeless, and there was constant discord and fighting and arguments and accusations. And through the advice from my Plainfield practitioner and some of the readings she led me to, one of them being Love Your Enemies in Miscellaneous Writings, I started to really understand that I was in fact creating this idea of an enemy and then giving it life and feeding it and making it very big in my own mind, in my own thought. And I realized I needed to correct that. And I've been doing these mini watches that somebody recommended not too long ago, and also just continuing to work with some of these ideas that the practitioner recommended. And this last week, I just had some breakthrough moments where I was speaking to one of these people at work, and all the animosity that was there was gone. And another situation is with this person in my personal life, where I was able to finally just have some peace, and they're speaking to me, I'm speaking to them, and it's respectful. And it's just it's a major breakthrough for me to see that happen, because it could not have happened without God's hand in the situation. So just wanted to express my gratitude for the progress made while learning with this church and my practitioner. All I've learned about this really pure form of Christian Science that is the most progressive that I've ever known it to be in my life at this point. And I just wanted to say thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Colleen from Massachusetts. Go ahead.
Oh, good evening. Thank you for the meeting tonight on moral courage. I just wanted to say thank you for last weekend, the Bible study and the round table. The Bible study was the finish of the 7 churches, the last 3, and also the round table on faith. And I was very quiet the whole weekend, and it was not really like myself. I like to participate and, put in my 2 cents, so to speak. And I kept waiting for a thought, and, I get this message from God, just you need to sit and listen and hold tight and listen and learn. And I'm glad that I did, because even though I had some of the thoughts and the ideas written down, I didn't really understand what I wrote. So by listening to the Bible study, the audio, and I'm getting a better understanding of the message to the churches, and just a better understanding what it is to be a good member of this church. And I'm looking forward to more Bible studies and more roundtables and participating. But it has to come from a position that God gives me the message, and not just human will of wanting to be heard. And so, therefore, the difference of just, putting in your 2 cents. And so I'm grateful that I'm learning to be humble and meek and learn from everyone who has learned a lot and is willing to contribute and give their inspiration. Thank you for the meeting tonight. Good night.
Thank you. This is Bruce. I guess this testimony is another plug for our Bible studies, which I thoroughly enjoy because I get so much out of them. And I think one of the things that we were discussing in one of the Bible studies was how important it is to pick up the Bible, read it and study it, and pray to God for the divine message that it has to give. I mean, it's one thing to read the Bible and study and prepare for the Bible study, maybe read the Bible in the lesson, but besides that, pick up the Bible, read it. There's a treasure in there. recently it became very apparent to my wife and I that we needed another auto mechanic to take care of our vehicles. And we discussed it, but quite frankly, I didn't know of anybody. So I dismissed the whole idea, and then later I picked up my Bible and read. And I don't know exactly where the passages were, but I had such a good time with the Bible and reading about God's message saying, He will provide all that's needed. He will never leave anyone desolate. And it's our job to place our trust in Him and follow as best we can. The following day, my wife turned on her computer, and there was a list of auto mechanics in the area, and we looked at it together, and there was just one that just seemed to stand out. And so we read some more on the company, and it's not one that I would have picked because the business was an unusual name. But I went and visited them one day, and I got such a good feeling from them. Made an appointment for our vehicles and had them serviced the following week. And it worked out so well. And I just felt that they were so trustworthy and good. So I'm grateful for this blessing. Obviously a blessing that came from God. I'm also grateful for that special treasure that we have in our Bible, and that it's there for us to read and study and let God talk to us. Linda.
Thank you for the readings tonight and the music. Tonight I'd like to express my gratitude for a healing that I have had with seasonal allergies at this time of year. For decades I suffered severely, almost incapacitating me sometimes. And since being here and working consistently with a practitioner and learning more about God's creation and God and such a love for nature and lots of change of thought in my thinking and behavior, it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. And with this week's lesson where Miss Zeddy just writes about God's creation and the beauty and her love for nature, which I'm really appreciating more as I read prose works. But I noticed that even the last couple of weeks, I used to go out and see the car covered with pollen, and that would just be the end of my day. And I didn't even notice it this week, and I was walking and working outside, sleeping with window open, and just no symptoms at all. And I'm very grateful for that, but I'm more grateful for the new understanding of God and His creation and a love for the nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Chardell.
Good evening, and the music is beautiful, and those readings are spectacular. Thank you. And also, thank you to God, Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, Plainfield Church, and my practitioner. There's a man called Reverend Kratzer, G.A. Kratzer, and he has a book called Dominion Within. And in it is a chapter called The Law of Right Feeling, where he talks about how our body and our bodily well-being is directly connected to the right or wrong activity of feelings. He goes on to say, using an example of a lost pocketbook, and here's a quote: "The loss of a pocketbook containing money does not occur in the changeless realm of God or truth. It only occurs in the false phenomenal realm of error. Joy and peace are not properties or manifestations of a full pocketbook. Man's feelings can act only in accord with their source of principle, God." End quote. Well, I have worked with this before very successfully, and the other day when my grandchild, he's 19, offered to go to the store for us because it was getting close to a church activity, he left and he came back and he said he had lost my credit card. And my first reaction was, oh no. And then I caught myself right away, and I talked to him, and I said, nothing can be lost. He's been going to a different church, and I said, but nothing can be lost. And he calmed down, but he did say a few times, you should cancel your credit card. I said, no, there's no necessity for that. Let's wait and see how God works. So the next day, actually a friend said, why don't you just call the store? I thought it was in the house somewhere. So I did call the store. They had it in their safe, and I managed to get there. And with my license to prove who I was, I retrieved the credit card, much to his delight. And but a few days later, I couldn't find my license. And I thought, I know what's happening here. So I thought the same. I want to read this. The law of God that was true for the credit card was the same law for the driver's license. And so I calmed down. You know, I didn't really have to calm down, but I got quiet. And I did some work, some church work. And I had searched a little bit. And I thought about the laws again of God. And went back, and on my second search, I found the license. There it was. And I had prayed. Well, the whole situation is positive proof that God is the only mind and power when we trust him. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol.
We had at work today, we had a very important document that had to be finalized and submitted. And it was, this was the total end of the time that we had to do it. And there were a few people that were working on it, that were making edits to it and so on. And somewhere along the way, something happened in the document, and it looked unlike what it should look like. Some odd thing happened, somebody pushed the wrong button or whatever. So they brought it to me and they said, can you fix it? Can you fix it? So I said, well, I'll give it a try. So I sat down with it on my computer, and I went through the couple of thoughts that I thought might have caused the problem, and it didn't fix it. So I just sat back a second and I said, okay, Father, those are the ones I know. What do you know? Please show me what to do and how to fix this. And I looked back at my computer screen, and my eye just fell on one area, and I went into it, fixed it, and it was perfect. I just am so very grateful to be learning to stop and ask God. It was, the people around me were quite surprised that it got done so easily, and I said, I prayed. And they said, oh, okay, maybe we should try that once in a while. So I said, well, I recommend it, you know. So, but I am so very grateful. God is always at hand. Nothing is impossible to him, and nothing is too small to take to God. If it seems kind of stupid and insignificant and you really don't want to bother God with it, he's waiting. So I'm just so very grateful to be always learning that and learning new things all the time about God and how good he is. I'm so grateful to be a member of this church, and grateful to Mrs. Eddy for giving us this wonderful way of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ from Canada, go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you for the wonderful testimonies I've heard so far and the good readings tonight. Recently I found myself sort of drifting more into the busyness of human life and getting caught up with all these chores and things that I had to do for myself, and being so tired in the evening, and I kind of woke up to the mesmerism that it was really just pulling me away from doing the work that I needed to be doing. And so I, once again, Plainfield's wonderful website with all the good material that's available there pulled me out of the mesmerism. And particularly, there was a real need at my work to get some cohesiveness with the rest of the nurses that I work with, the Christian Science nurses, and deal with some situations that had been pulling us apart. And after I had talked this idea through with a few of the nurses, and then started to do my shift, I thought, well, I'm just going to keep on working. And one of the things that is so easy to do is just to pull up the website, and just like the Bible or Science and Health, where you just open to a page and it's got something there that you need, the website can do the same thing. And for me, I got some YouTube testimonies going, and one particular one just really stood out to me, and it was effective prayer. I think that was the title of it, and it was given by a practitioner at Plainfield, and it talked about forgiveness of enemies as being sort of the foundation of getting to effective prayer and coming to God with a clean slate. And it was just what I needed to really solidify my resolve to stick with things, to develop this more effective prayer in the right way. And I'm just so grateful again for my visit to Plainfield, to see people in person, and for being able to just have a continuous resource from you. And thank you very much for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Benjamin.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here tonight. And, two of my favorite quotes of all time has always been what we have on the wall here by Mrs. Sede. Said, to those leaning on the sustaining infinite, today is big with blessings. Another one is the one I grew up with. It says, today is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Both are very, very similar in meaning. And is the thought that I always have in mind when I leave the house in the morning, going anywhere. Because if you can achieve that, if you can hold that in your thought all day, quite frankly, that alone is a blessing beyond measure. Today, I arrived at work this morning, and I had a very high expectation. And what today was going to be for me, nothing but blessing. But arriving at work today, the picture was complete opposite. In fact, the first person I met today did not respond very well to me. At that moment, the energy wanted to drop. And I told myself, and I keep repeating to myself, that today is the day the Lord has made. And knowing very well that nothing but good can enter today. And I have that thought constantly with me throughout the day. And as I held on to it, everyone that I was working with was responsive, and everybody was being very positive with me. And even though I was expecting very highly today, like I said, But I was exceedingly surprised how today turned out to be. At the end, today became one of the best days I've had at work in a very long time, which could have been possibly quite the opposite if I had not done the work. And I'm very grateful to God, because here in Christian Science, especially here in Plainfield, we've been taught no matter what the picture is, no matter what error try to present to you, because when you have high expectation, the devil will be at work, try to interfere with that, try to change it. So it's your job to not let your thoughts about God, about yourself, about the day to drop low. If you keep it high, it will not affect you, but it will only be a blessing to you, because that was my experience today. Really, I'm very, very happy today what God has done for me, what He always do for me, and everything that I'm learning here. And I'm very happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary.
We've heard some wonderful examples tonight of people listening to God's direction and being blessed by it. One of the things I'm very grateful for, having learned, or learning, if you will, at this church, is to learn that we all have spiritual sense, and we must learn to respect it and trust it and to follow it, because it is how God speaks to us. It is how we hear God's voice. I had an experience which I've testified before, but I'd like to give it again. I'm in the investment business. It's what I do for a living. And quite a while ago, I bought a bond that looked like it was an outstanding investment on the surface. There was one facet of it that was a little bothersome to me, but I kind of glossed it over and bought it anyway. And afterwards, I kept being bothered by this one aspect of this bond. It wouldn't go away in my thought. And that night, I couldn't sleep. Well, the next day, I talked about it with a few other people, and they all assured me that this was not a problem. Don't worry about it. You're fine. You're good. And that night, I still didn't sleep. And in the middle of the night, it was very, very clear that God was trying to tell me something, and that I needed to listen, and I needed to do something. So in the morning, it just was loud and clear. I needed to sell this bond. It wouldn't stop bothering me. So I made arrangements to sell it, and in doing so, it was actually quite embarrassing, because I had to admit to a lot of people, including my most important client, that I had made a mistake, and I was going to turn it around. So I kind of swallowed my pride and went ahead and sold the bond at a small loss. But that night I slept really well. And it was a few months later, it was revealed that that aspect of that investment that I was concerned about was clearly worth being concerned about, because whoever owned the bond at that time lost a lot of money. I was so grateful to God when I found that out for warning me several months earlier. And I was so grateful for what I am learning in this church that when I hear God speaking to me that way, to do something about it. This obedience to God's voice is probably the most valuable thing anybody could ever learn to do. And I'm so grateful to be learning it here in this church. I'm grateful for all the help I've ever received from practitioners in this church. And so happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Fairley from Maryland, go ahead.
Thank you. Someone close to me is claiming an extreme physical problem and pain, despite having been to several very fine doctors who cannot diagnose anything. In the past, I might have gotten very into the whole belief. But this time, while being kind, I myself refused to get into the Adam dream, as I've learned at Plainfield, and let this seeming problem draw me down. But it's actually the best thing I can do for the individual who seems to be having the problem. I'm very grateful for Christian Science and for Mrs. Eddy and what she's given us. And I'm very grateful to Plainfield for all I'm learning here, and to my practitioner who has stood by me constantly. And thank you very much for the readings and the meeting tonight.
Thank you. Sharon.
I'm so grateful to have Christian Science in my life. Today I was talking with a co-worker who's going to be a grandmother to twins. And I asked her today, when is the happy event? She says it's a few weeks. And she said, but my daughter is very scared. She's afraid she won't be able to care for these children. So I said, okay, God, what do you have for me to say? And I said to her, God would not give her these twins unless he knows she will love them and be able to take care of them. And my coworker just said, oh, thank you. I've never heard anything like that before. And I was just so grateful that what I've learned in this church and from help from practitioner and all the roundtables and Bible studies, that we have this science when it's needed. I am so grateful for all that I've learned, for practitioner help, and for the readings tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Lawrence, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm so grateful tonight to share something that I read on one of our articles. It's not new, but it's another way of looking at what we so emphasize here in handling animal magnetism. The article is Courage by Edith C. Carter. And she points out that we do resist truth if we are not depending on God. From the article, this is a quote from the article. It says, when we learn that we suffer only as we resist the truth, we gain the courage needed to depend completely on God. If we listen to and obey God consistently, we will find peace and satisfaction in our lives. This counsel has been said in many ways before, but the idea of resisting truth stood out. And it's something I feel we can put to everything that comes up as we handle the challenges that come. Meaning that if at any time I'm suffering, it means that I am resisting some truth. And right where that error is, the opposite of it, which I can know, is what I'm resisting. Examples, many examples. If I am saying that I am feeling some pain, it means that I am resisting the truth that there is no sensation in matter, for example. If I accept anything that is discordant, I am resisting the truth that God is all, that He is present. I think the word resist is what really stood out to me, because I don't think I had often looked at it that way, that if I'm suffering, I am resisting truth. And I just wanted to share it so that it can help others too. I'm so grateful for all the articles that are on this website. As a previous testifier said, all you have to do is to ask God, help me, and you are led to something. There's always something to read that really turns things around. I'm particularly grateful for this article because it seems like many calls, people are needing the courage to depend on God completely. And if we can just remember that if we are ever suffering, ask ourselves, what truth am I resisting? And God will lead us to it. I'm so grateful to be here tonight. Thank you for the readings on courage, the hymns, and the many testimonies that are proving that something is going on in this church, and the glory is to God. I'm grateful for Mrs. Eddy, Christ Jesus, and all the practitioners ever who were here that have taught, and whatever they have taught has been carried on to today. I'm so grateful to be here and happy for the service. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary.
Okay, I'll read a couple of things from our church website bulletin board. The first from Virginia. I want to express my sincere gratitude for the Sunday service on ancient and modern necromancy, alias mesmerism and hypnotism denounced. This was such an inspiring service from beginning to end, and I should know never to expect anything less than complete perfection with mind at the helm. I also would like to express a heartfelt thank you to Faith and Jared for such a beautiful vocal, musical presentation of the 91st Psalm. I have learned through this church how important our watches are for the Sunday services and the Wednesday evening meetings. When I think of all the coordinating it takes to present these services each week and to have them heard around the world, these watches serve a vital role in maintaining that perfection and high standard that Mrs. Eddy always expected. I am so grateful for this wonderful church, which radiates pure Christian science. It serves such a crucial role at this time in our movement. I would just like to say how grateful I am that she sees this, and many of you do. The reason that our services are so dynamic is there's a lot of praying that is involved. We don't just waltz in and sit down on a pew and hope for the best. There's a lot of prayer, and I know many of you are praying as to your testimonies and what you can do to contribute and to bring in, as we've been taught here, our faith-lit candles. And as we do that, and we praise God and are so grateful for the good we've received during the week, we leave with a great sense of peace and healing. And then the next one from our bulletin board is from Massachusetts. I am very grateful for the Sunday Roundtable on unmasking and destroying evil and the three key points in handling animal magnetism. 1, see what error is trying to do. 2, know that it has no power to do it. 3, see to it that it doesn't do it. I have been using this, and it is quick and very effective. I have my sword of truth out, and it is mighty. Thank you for showing me the way to handle error. The spiritual armament that we are learning here at this church is powerful. And then this is a letter from Virginia. Dear fellow members, in an earnest desire to support and further the outreach of this dedicated independent church, my husband and I are enclosing a check to go to the funding for a new roof for the church. This is sent with much gratitude and love to God, Christ Jesus, and Mary Baker Eddy, and grateful thanks to each dedicated member and worker in this cause. With love. And then Oregon. I've been saving up for quite some time to have something done in my yard. Yesterday I found out, because of a city ordinance, I won't be able to have it done at all. On the round table today, and that was June 3rd, a practitioner said money was needed to put a new roof on the church. I'm donating the money I'd saved from my yard to the church. I love it that you ask for help through the round table. Individually would be like pressuring people for money. This way it's just letting us know you need us to step up and help. I want to be very clear about this. I've never ever been pressured for money from this church. Today is my birthday. What a wonderful gift to me to be able to help. Love to all. This letter brought me to tears. The person that sent it sent quite a considerable amount. She'd been saving for a few years for a fence around her home, and then she donated all that she had saved to our church fund to replace the roof, which will be quite costly, as those of you who heard the round table on June the 3rd. So it was truly the widow's mite, and I know that this person lives very frugally. She doesn't have a lot of extra money. She doesn't even own a computer. She joins in only by phone, and it was just so touching to me that she would do this, and so freely and so generously. And I'm grateful to others of you who have been sending your widow's mite to help us in this. And as you've noticed, we have on a carousel now a request, because we have been rather shy about asking for money, but in order to have our website, to do all the things we do, which we want to offer freely to the world, it is not free. It does take money, and we exist by your donations. So we are very grateful for this. And in your giving, freely ye have received, freely give. And your giving goes back to you and blesses you, as we've all learned here. I'm very grateful for this meeting tonight, those wonderful readings on courage, our beautiful organist, our music, and all those heartfelt testimonies. It's what makes this church such a blessing to each other and to all mankind. It's great to be here tonight.